Hello everybody, today we are going to talk about break and continue instruction on a practical example. Let's imagine a situation that we want to create a program where we ask the user for three positive numbers, but we want to add only positive numbers. If the user put the negative number, so the number with the minus sign, we do not want to include it into the result, okay? And the problem is already solved here, we'll analyze it soon, but it is not exactly perfect. It could be improved a lot by the break and continue instruction that we'll talk about. Okay, it's time to analyze the program. We've created a variable that is called result and we assigned to it 0 because 0 is a neutral element for addition. And we want to use the result for adding positive numbers, right? Then we created the loop for, and that loop for will execute instructions inside its body 3 times because I typed here the range and I sent to the range function 3. And that range of 3 will return here a list of 3 elements. And we know that loop for will execute it 3 times because of the 3 elements that are here. Okay? Then we ask for the user for positive number. We change that semi number because it's really a string into the integer using this cast function. Then we assign it to the x and then we check if x is greater than 0. If yes, then we add this x into the result and then we send the current addition result into the output. So now it's pretty easy program, but the problem is that when we run this module, of course, the colon as always, and we put, for example, 20, then 15, then, for example, 5, as you can see, everything works fine, but when we put 20 and then, for example, minus 5 and then 25, we've just added only 2 positive numbers, but we've wanted to add 3 positive numbers, right? Well, it's because one of the numbers were negative number, and that's why it worked like that. We need to somehow improve this program. We could solve it in 2 ways. We could, ask for positive numbers, and otherwise, so in else situation, when the number is negative, we could just break the iteration. We could just leave that loop totally, because break leaves the loop entirely. It leaves it, it stops the execution of instruction after it. And we could inform the user, I expected positive number. You gave me a negative number. You are a bad boy, right? And we will just, because he's a bad boy, break the iteration, right? And now when we run the module, you will notice that when we type 20 and then minus 5, as you can see, the loop has stopped totally. So break is an instruction that leaves the loop entirely, okay? It stops it and it will not run anymore. So if I had started with the negative number, bam, it's done, okay? None of the instruction will be executed after it. Even the one after the break instruction, right? This one hasn't been executed at all. But of course, if there are instructions after, like here, right? The one that are outside of the loop, that one will be executed without that problem, right? After, as you can see, we have got after here. So break just leaves the loop entirely. But I think it's not the best thing. We should, I think, solve it a bit different way. Let's type here continue. What does continue do? It leaves the current iteration, so it gives leaves the repetition of loop, the current one, and then continues the execution of loop from start, okay? it will, from this place, it will leave instantly to this place. So now when we run the module, and when we put here, for example, 20 and then -5 and then 20, as you can see, we informed that we expected the positive number, and that's all. Well, because of that continue, that instruction here wasn't executed. Notice that when we remove the continue and we run the module and we type 20 -5 and then 40, sorry, 20, we'll have as a result 40 here, as here, but notice that we have got this thing here. The current edition of result is 20. Here we didn't have that information, right? It's because when the interpreter meets the continue, it will leave the current iteration, so current repetition of loop, and continue from start. So it will jump from here instantly back to here. The problem is that we still ask for only 3 numbers, and when somebody make an error, we'll add only 2 numbers. Well, if he made 2 errors, we'll add only 1 number, right? If he made 3 errors, then we would have 0 as a result, right? We could, let's see, -5, -5, -5, right? Bah, nothing, because we even didn't show the result here, right? But let's make example -5, -5, and 5. As you can see, it's 5. So it's still not perfect, right? We should somehow, change the loop that way so it repeats again. One more time. How to do it? Unfortunately, it's not possible with the loop for, but we can achieve this thing with the loop while. So we'll create a temporary variable I, and while I is lower than 3, then we'll execute all these instructions, and at the end, we will add to I 1. And notice that we've just solved totally the problem. Of course, the column. 5 -5, 20. Oh, it's asking again for something like, for example, 20. It's 45. 5 plus 20 plus 20 is 45. Why it's working fine? Because, well, let's analyze the program. I is equal to 0. Is 0 lower than 3? Yes, that's why we'll execute instructions here. We'll ask for the positive number. The positive number was 5. So if 5 is greater than 0, yes, it's greater than 0. So we added it to the result. These instructions weren't executed because, well, because they would be executed if x was lower or equal to 0, right? And we executed the current edition of result, so it's 5, and then we added to I 1. Is 1 lower than 3? Yes, it's true. So we ask again for the number, and then we put here -5. So -5 is not greater than 0. So we execute the things that are here, right? Inside the else conditional statement body. So we typed on the output, I expected positive number, you gave me a negative number, you are a bad boy. But we then execute the continue instruction, which omits, which will not execute because of that instructions will not execute the instructions here, will just jump instantly back here, which means that I will not increase by 1. We still have here, as in the condition, the same condition like before, right? Because we check again if 1 is lower than 3. Yes, it's lower. It's again lower because, well, 1 is lower than 3 and we checked it before, right? So 1 is 1 lower than 3. Yes, then we ask again. So the cool thing about that solution that we have got right now is that we can, constantly type negative numbers, but our program will stop executing only when we put 3 positive numbers. So when we do something like that, and then we again, for example, put negative numbers. I typed something wrong here, sorry. Let's run the module again. So -5, -5, -5, and for example 20. And then -5, -5, -5, and then for example 30. And then and then 20. So we need to type 3 positive numbers as we wanted, right? We assume that our program should add 3 positive numbers. And it should not stop execution until we get 3 positive numbers. So now it works like we wanted. So as you can see now on practical example, how continue or break can be used, right? So continue leaves the current iteration, repetition of loop, and continues the execution from the start. But when you use the break, you just instantly leaves the loop entirely, right? You just leave it, you break it. Okay, that's all the lesson. Thank you.